Hi everyone! Today we're going to talk about Discord and setting up a server for your class. Discord is a pretty simple but powerful chatting tool that you can use. It has a web feature. You can download this app for your computer, or you can use the app on your phone or tablet. So there's multiple ways for you and your students to actually use this. We'll go over some general things that we want to have in our Discord channels or Discord server. So when you first sign into Discord, you'll probably won't have as many friends as I do, but you can start adding your friends if you know that other people you know use Discord, and you can also just start adding your students and make sure that you have a little part in your syllabus that lets them know that Discord is one of the technologies that you'll be using and that they need to make an account. So to start, we're going to add a server, and you can start from a template, but this is more for so you can see like artists and creators, study groups, and gaming. So there are sub-communities online that really use Discord a lot. So it's better if you just make your own. And you can do it for a club or a community if you think it's going to be larger. So if you are one of the STEM faculty and you have, hundreds of students, then maybe do it for community. But if it's just going to be you and your 10 to 20 students, you can just do a me and my friends one. And you want to add a server name. You can also add a picture. So I'll do that later. I'll just create for now. And you have your server. So you have all of this space. Down here is where you'll send your messages, and then it prompts you to do a few things. But first, what we're going to do is actually go ahead and make our channels. And so there are a few different ways we can set this up. The first is just a sort of community building way of running the class. You can also set this up to be your actual learning management system. So you can set things up to have channels where they turn in projects or do things like that. But we're just going to do a regular classroom setup for now. So we've got our general channel. We have these categories of channels. So you can do more than one. So what I'm going to do right here is I am going to create a category, and we're just going to call this admin category. Alright, so this is good for you if you have a TA or a TAP intern that you are working with, graders that you're working with this semester. This is really good to have so that you can lock it down, and that can be information that's just for y'all that you share. So here we have just the description of what this means, and then I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on. So when we start to create channels within this category, it's gonna automatically lock them. Okay, so we can type in a role name, or we can specify people. There's no people in our Discord server yet except for us, so we're just going to skip this for now, and we'll come back to roles later. Alright, so I've got my admin category. I want that to be at the top. There we go. So let's start making channels. So this is just going to be a regular text channel. It automatically makes everything lowercase when you're doing a text channel, just so you know. And we are going to do info. bot commands. We'll cover bots in another video, but I wanted to go ahead and create this channel just so that it's there. And we'll do one more for admin notes. Okay. So if you are working with graders or your TAP intern, whoever it is, if you're co-teaching, for example, anything like that, so this is a good place for you to kind of have your command center. So an info channel, I usually use that just for our general talking back and forth with my TAP intern. Us having whatever conversations that are pertinent to the class that we need to have, so that it's all in one space. Then admin notes, this is for if we change anything on the server, if we add anything on the server, if your TAP intern, for example, is noticing that a couple of your students are checking out and aren't as engaged, maybe they can drop that sort of note in the admin notes, just as something to think about, those sorts of things. And then bot commands, this is where we'll put all of our little things that we tell the bots to do once we add bots, which again we'll get to in another channel. Alright, so let's go to text channels now. And we are going to go ahead and create some more channels in here. So I have a general channel. That's usually what I use just to talk to the class. So if I have announcements to send out to them, if we're just chit-chatting about something that's going on campus, or I also did some watch parties. We watched Black Panther together and did some commentary on it on the general channel. All of those things can be done, or you can think of, if you want to designate it for something else, you can. But I always have some community guidelines. This is where you can reinforce any classroom rules that you have in terms of the face-to-face class, but this is a pretty standard option when we talk about Discord servers, or really any kind of servers or chat rooms, forums, anything like that online. They all have sort of rules of engagement in terms of talking to people, and so I always set one of these up, and I'll show you in another course, my digital storytelling course, where that is. So for this one, I didn't do it in text channels, I did an overall info category, but you can do everything in text channels if you want to. So here are my community rules, and I just lay out the biggest things that we want to think about. So a lot of these have to do with digital citizenship. Some of them have to do with trying to make sure that our classrooms stay anti-racist, anti-homophobic, those sorts of things. And some of them have to do with actual just digital courtesy and etiquette. So like down here we have tag spoilers. So for my classes, we do a lot of things with media. So for example, I just had some students who saw the new Marvel movie. So if they want to talk about it in relation to something we're talking about in class, or just want to talk about it in the general channel, that's fine, but they need to tag the spoilers. And if you are using things like tags or any of the kind of special features of Discord, make sure you explain how to do that in your rules. And then no spamming, so we tag people on here, and I can tag, for example, I'll just tag my TAP intern, Corbin. So I can put @Corbin and it will tag him, so he will get a little alert that this message is specifically for him. So when we say no spamming, that means like don't constantly be tagging people when they'll probably see it already just by watching. So that's the community rules ones. I also have a roles and pronouns channel. So this just lets them, this is one of the bots that I use, and this just lets them kind of tell me how they feel in terms of where they are in their digital journey, and if they're comfortable, they can also tell me their pronouns down here. And so that's one that you might want to have. I have an introduction channel and a pet tax, so a lot of people in their introductions told me about their pets. So here is our specific channel so they can drop any pictures and videos that they want to share. So those are sort of general setup ones, but in terms of actually setting up the class, I always have a channel for, again, community guidelines. I have a channel for something that promotes further discussion. Sometimes that's notes, but sometimes if I have a class where I think the notes channel is going to get really, really dense with people sharing their notes, then I'll go ahead and also put a further discussion channel in here too. So if we didn't get to go down the rabbit hole we want to go down, we can talk about extra stuff in here. And then lastly, questions. This is good because sometimes a student will have a question. We've all had that situation where you get 15 emails from your students about, hey, where do I find X? And so this is a good way for students to keep track of, oh, I see that so-and-so already asked, how do we find or where do we find this reading? And Dr. Malone answered them with this. So keeps track of the questions that are asked. Now, so these are my just general text channels. And then there are also other channels that you can add for community building. So I'm going to create a category that's just called community. And within that category, move it up one, actually. This is where we'll put the pet tax channel for this one. We can also put a good news one. So we can, this is the part where we can talk about pre and post COVID technology usage. And so, or I shouldn't even say pre, so during and post-COVID technology usage. And so, you know, during COVID, one of the things that was really hard, or I should say during the shutdown, when we were all online, one of the things that was hard was keeping that good classroom community going. And if you have specific things in terms of your channels on Discord that kind of prompt students to talk to each other outside of just talking about the classroom content, that can be a really, really good way of promoting that classroom community. And depending on your class that you're teaching, you can even have them, you know, talk about stuff that's kind of slightly related, but maybe off topic. So, for example, with my digital media class, maybe we have some sort of YouTube things, African American Lit, let's have an adaptations channel. So my students who are in African American Lit, if they find like a really good podcast that's an adaptation of, you know, Toni Morrison's novels or something like that, or if they find a YouTube series that's an adaptation of something by a Black author, anything like that, they can just add it here, which is kind of related to our stuff, but it's kind of one of the fun ones, and so this is a good way of building community. Alright, so that is how you set up your channels. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of the tools that you're using, and so when you start getting into some of the more complicated things, that's when you start to kind of really flesh this out. But for right now, the only thing that I really want to talk about for the rest of this video is sharing this in terms of inviting your students to come on in to your server, and then roles. So let's talk about roles first. We're going to go to our server settings. So these are all of our settings, and we've got lots of different things that we can work with here. You've got some emojis that if you have, you know, emoji that you design, you can add some here. If you pay for Discord, like the premium service, you can do animated ones. I can show you what those look like in another class. But what we are interested in are roles. Okay, so I don't have any roles right now. The only permission is everyone, so I want to create a role. We're going to call this particular role, let's keep it simple and just call it admin. And so me and anybody else that I designate as an admin are going to have this role attached to them. And I will show you also how to give people certain roles. Down here, this is really the only thing that you'll think about in terms of this page, which is allow anyone to mention this role. So this is good if you have a TA or a tutor for your class, TAP intern, anyone that the students are going to interact with who's an admin. Go ahead and turn this on so that they can say @admin and it gets all of our attention basically. So that's the first thing, and then we also have permissions. There's so many different ones. So you can decide if this person can invite people to the server, good for your co-teachers, if they can change their own nickname, if they can manage other people's nicknames, if they can kick people out of the server, all of that good stuff. So depending on who you're working with, you'll want to go through these server permissions, and there is a long list of them, but you'll want to go through them and just make sure that they have permission to do the things that you need/want them to do. So let's get out of here real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back up to our admin category. And I just right-clicked on the category title. We're going to edit our category. And I'm going to come over to permissions. So we want to say which role can access it. So we're going to say admin. There we go. So now we've saved this so that only people who, well, you as the server owner, but then only the people who actually have admin as their role attached to their title can access this particular channel or this particular category and all the channels underneath it. And then you can also do really specific permissions for, say, your admin. So if you, for example, are doing admin stuff for your TAs, your tutors, those sorts of things, you can go through the permissions and let it know specifically what they can do for this category. All right. And the way we add a role to a person is once you have all of your people added to your server, you just right-click on their name over here, and you can go to roles. And if it's someone else, so that's me, so let's actually go over here to mine. And for Corbin's, what I can do is right-click on him and go down to roles, and you'll get a full list of your roles. So these are all of my roles that I have for this particular class. So I'm going to give him the intern role since he is my intern. That's all you got to do is click it and it saves it. And so now any channels that I have that are locked that are specific for interns, they can access that, or he would be able to access that since he has that role attached to him now. So that's roles. And lastly, how we share. So once you've got everything set up, you have your roles created, you have edited your channels and given them a little bit of description right here. Maybe you've gone ahead and sent a message. We want to be able to share things. And so you have this invite people button right here at the top when you go to your server menu. And it asks you by your friends first, so you can search for friends if you have that, or you can do an actual link. And so if you're doing a link, you should be aware that these expire. And so you can edit this link and you can tell it you never want it to expire, but you can limit the amount of use it has. So if you have, 15 students in your class, you can say, the link itself doesn't expire, but you can only use it. But it can only be used 25 times, and after that, you'll need a new link. You can also put it at no limit, never expire, and then whoever needs it, who joins the class, just has it. You don't need to grant temporary membership. I can't think of a classroom setting where you would need to do that. Maybe, if you have a class with high turnover within the add drop period, and, you know, they get their roles 2 weeks in, and so they get disconnected after a certain period if they don't have a role assigned. Maybe, but that's the only way that I can think of it. Otherwise, I would just leave that turned off. So we'll generate a link. So we have our new link here, and you would just copy, and on your T-Learn page, with the edit button turned on, you would add an activity or resource, add a URL, and just paste that URL in as your Discord link. So that is the overview of how to set up a Discord channel. And what you will want to do next is, if you are looking at the more advanced parts of Discord, do please watch our second video on this and check out how to add bots. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email academictechnology@trinity.edu, and we will be happy to help.